There is a wisdom our ancestors whispered on the wind, a truth that sleeps in the very soil beneath our feet. No river can forever run separate from the ocean. Destiny has currents that pull lost streams home, and life has a way of humbling the mighty with the hands of the small. Tonight, we gather under the great, listening branches of the baobab, to share a tale of two worlds. In one, walks Jaden Williams, a man of Lagos, whose wealth built towers of glass and steel, yet whose heart had become a cold, empty palace. In the other, a child, Rachel, just 6 reigns old, whose world was the dusty earth of Ajegunle, whose only treasure was her love for her ailing mother, Mabel. Welcome to Echoes from the Baobab Tree, where the timeless spirit of Africa comes alive through the power of storytelling. Add your voice to our circle. Subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you never miss a story. Like this video, and most importantly, share it with your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, and your friends. Let us weave this tapestry of tales together, one thread at a time. Let's continue the story. My hands would not stop shaking. The white envelope felt like a heavy stone in my grasp. Inside was a secret, a truth that would shatter my world and rebuild it all at once. I, Jaden Williams, one of the richest men in all of Lagos, was terrified of a single piece of paper. I looked from the envelope to the little girl sitting on the expensive rug in my office, her small hands carefully coloring a picture of a sun with a yellow crayon. Her name was Rachel. Just 3 days ago, she had walked into my life, a poor, barefoot child begging for a job to save her sick mother. And now this paper was about to tell me who she truly was. I took a deep, shaky breath and my fingers tore the top of the envelope open. The sound made Rachel look up. "What is it, Sir Jaden?" she asked, her voice soft and innocent. I couldn't answer. My eyes scanned the words, rushing past the legal language until I found the line that mattered. The line that held my destiny. Conclusion: 99.98% probability of paternity. Jaden Williams is the biological father of the minor, Rachel ****. The word stopped. The noise of Lagos traffic 20 floors below vanished. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought it would break through. My legs felt weak. I stumbled back and fell into my leather chair, the paper crinkling in my tight grip. "Sir Jaden, are you sick?" Rachel asked, her voice filled with worry. She stood up and came towards me, her dusty bare feet silent on the marble floor. I stared at her, really stared. Now I saw it. The shape of her eyes was my mother's. The slight curve of her smile was my own. How had I not seen it before? This poor, brave, beautiful little girl was my daughter. My own flesh and blood. The child I never knew existed. Tears, the first I had cried in 10 years, welled up in my eyes and spilled down my cheeks. Rachel reached my chair and placed her small hand on my knee. "Please don't cry," she whispered, her own eyes getting wet. "Is it bad news? Is it about my mommy?" I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. How do you tell a 6-year-old that her entire life is about to change? How do you explain that the man she thought was just a kind stranger was the father who had never known her? My mind flashed back to how it all began, just a few short days ago, on a Monday that started like any other but ended by turning my world upside down. It was a bright Monday morning on the 15th of May. The sun was already hot over the city of Lagos. Down below on the street, cars honked their horns in the terrible traffic on the island. People rushed everywhere, men in sharp suits and women in beautiful dresses, all heading into tall, glass buildings. The air smelled of petrol, fresh puff-puff from the street vendors, and the hurry of people trying to make money. But in the middle of all this rush, one person was moving slowly. A tiny little girl walked carefully along the busy sidewalk. Her name was Rachel. She was only 6 years old. Her feet were bare and covered in red dust from the dirty road. She wore a faded blue dress that was too big for her and had a small tear at the shoulder. In one hand, she clutched a black nylon bag that seemed to hold everything she owned. Her eyes were red from crying, and her lips were dry from the sun. But her heart, oh, her heart was strong as a lion. That morning, her mother, Mabel, had fainted again. The sickness that had no name was getting worse. At the small, crowded clinic near their one-room home in Ajegunle, the nurse had shouted at them. "If you don't bring money today, we will send your mother away." Those words echoed in Rachel's head like a loud drum. She didn't know any rich people. But she had heard stories. Stories about a man named Mr. Jaden Williams. People said he was the richest man in Lagos, that he owned the tallest, shiniest building on the whole island. They also said he was strict and had a cold heart. Rachel didn't care about his cold heart. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, took a deep breath, and walked straight into the big, shiny building everyone called Williams Tower. Inside, the floor was made of white marble that shone like a mirror. The air was cool from the air conditioner and smelled clean and expensive. Well-dressed people turned to stare at her. A little girl in a torn dress, barefoot, standing in the middle of all this luxury. It was like a small, brown sparrow had flown into a palace of golden eagles. A tall security guard in a uniform quickly moved to block her path. "Hey, small girl," he barked. "Go back outside. This is not a playground for children like you." Rachel's whole body was trembling, but she stood her ground. She looked up at the big man, her voice a soft, shaky whisper. "Please, sir," she said. "I am not here to beg. I want to work. I need a job to help my sick mommy." The guard laughed a loud, harsh laugh that made other people turn and look. "Work? You? What work can you do? Go home, small girl, before I carry you and throw you out." But Rachel did not move. Her small feet seemed to be rooted to the shiny floor. She was so scared, but the picture of her mother's pale face gave her courage. She simply walked away from the guard and sat down quietly on the cold floor near the reception desk, clutching her nylon bag like it was a treasure. That was when a kind woman noticed her. Her name was Lizzie, and she was the secretary to one of the big bosses in the company. She had a warm, friendly face. She knelt down beside Rachel. "Little one," Lizzie said, her voice gentle. "What is your name? And why are you sitting here all alone?" "My name is Rachel," the girl whispered, tears finally starting to fall from her big, brown eyes. "My mommy is very sick. They said they would chase her away from the hospital if we don't bring money. I don't want money. I just want to work to help her." Lizzie's heart melted instantly. She could see the honesty and the deep worry in the child's eyes. She took Rachel's tiny, dusty hand in her own. "Come with me," she said softly. People whispered as Lizzie led the small, barefoot girl through the grand lobby towards the elevator. Some people shook their heads in pity, others smiled a sad smile. The elevator doors opened and they went up to the very top floor. This was where the big ogre himself had his office. Lizzie walked nervously towards a huge wooden door. She knocked softly before entering. Inside, the office was bigger than Rachel's whole house. The windows showed the entire city of Lagos below. And behind a massive glass desk, sat a man. He was dressed in a perfect white agbada, looking important and serious. He was signing some papers and did not look up. This was Mr. Jaden Williams. "Sir," Lizzie began, her voice trembling a little. "There is someone here to see you." Without looking up, he snapped, "I am busy, Lizzie. Tell them to make an appointment with my assistant." "But sir," Lizzie whispered. It is a child. She says she wants to work for you." Jaden froze. Slowly, he raised his head. And there she was. Little Rachel, standing quietly just inside the door, her dusty feet pressed together. She looked so small and out of place in his huge, expensive office. She was holding a folded piece of paper. She walked forward, her small heart pounding, and placed it on his big, clean desk. It was a drawing, made with a few old crayons. It showed a little girl giving a flower to a tall man. Under it, in shaky handwriting, were the words, asterisk, "Please let me work. I will clean your shoes. I will help. My mommy is dying." Asterisk. A deep silence filled the room. Jaden stared at the drawing. He looked at the messy crayon lines, the simple, honest words. Then he looked at the small girl before him. Her hair was a little messy, her cheeks were dirty, but her eyes, they were pure and full of a hope that he had not seen in anyone's eyes for a very long time. Something hard and cold inside his heart began to crack. He slowly stood up. "Who are you?" he asked, and his voice, for the first time in years, was gentle. "I am Rachel," she said softly. "I can wash, I can sweep, or I can run errands for you. Please, sir, don't let my mommy die. I don't want her to go like my daddy." Jaden's face changed. The stern lines around his mouth softened. For a moment, he was not a powerful billionaire. He was just a man, looking at a brave little girl. He walked around his desk and knelt down in front of her so that their eyes were level. He took the drawing from her trembling hands. "You want to walk?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir," Rachel whispered, her eyes wide. Jaden Williams, the man who never smiled, looked at this dusty child and felt a pain in his chest. It was the pain of remembering his own daughter, a daughter he had lost to a sickness many years ago. He would have given all his money to have her back. And here was this child, offering to work for a chance to save her mother. "Then come," he said, his voice thick with an emotion he could not name. He stretched his hand out towards her. Rachel hesitated for a second, then placed her small hand in his big one. A gasp went through the office staff who had gathered near the door. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Jaden led her out of the office, ignoring the stares and whispers. He didn't even call for his driver. He led her straight to the private elevator and down to the underground car park where his big, black, expensive car was waiting. He opened the door for her. "Get in," he said. "Let's go see your mother." Rachel's heart jumped with a joy she had not felt in months. She quickly climbed into the soft, leather seat, her bare feet dangling high above the floor of the car. As the car pulled out into the busy Lagos traffic, Rachel kept stealing small glances at the man everyone feared. But today, he didn't look scary. He looked kind. He kept staring at her drawing, tracing the crayon marks with his fingers. His hands were trembling slightly. "Sir," Rachel whispered after a long silence. "Do you really want to help my mommy?" "Yes, Rachel," Jaden said, turning to look at her. "What is her name?" "Her name is Mabel. She is my mommy and my best friend. She never complains, even when she is crying." Jaden gave a faint smile, the first real smile that had touched his lips in many, many months. The car moved through the streets, leaving the shiny world of Victoria Island and entering a different part of Lagos, a part where the roads were rough and the houses were crowded together. They arrived at a small, rundown clinic with cracked walls and a smell of sickness in the air. Rachel jumped out of the car and ran ahead, her bare feet slapping against the dirty floor. "Room 3, she called out. "That is my mommy's room." Jaden followed her closely, his expensive shoes stepping into a place he would never normally visit. Inside the small, hot room, a pale, thin woman lay weakly on a metal bed, her eyes closed. Rachel ran to her and grabbed her hand. "Mommy. Mommy, wake up. I brought someone. He said he will help us." Mabel's eyes fluttered open slowly. "Rachel, my child, where did you go? I was so worried." "I went to find a job, Mommy," Rachel said, smiling through her tears. "So you will not die like Daddy." Jaden stepped forward, his tall frame making the small room feel even smaller. "My name is Jaden Williams," he said softly. "I am Rachel's friend. And I want to help." Before Mabel could even process this, a nurse walked into the room, her face immediately twisting into a scowl when she saw Rachel. "You again," she snapped. "I told you, if you don't bring money." "How much is the bill?" Jaden interrupted, his voice firm and cold like ice. The nurse froze, finally noticing the important-looking man. "Oh. 150,000 naira for the new treatment. And 50,000 for the previous bills." Jaden pulled out his phone. "Give the account details to me. Now. Then, you will move her to a private room and call your best doctor here. I want him here in 5 minutes." The nurse blinked, stunned. So, are you a family member? Jaden looked up from his phone, his eyes sharp and dangerous. No, he said, his voice low and steady. I am the man who will shut this hospital down if you waste one more second. The nurse's eyes went wide with fear. She turned and ran out of the room immediately. Rachel looked up at Jaden, her eyes full of awe and wonder. Sir, she whispered. Are you an angel? Jaden knelt down beside her so he could look her in the eye. No, little one, he said, his voice suddenly very gentle. But maybe you are. In just minutes, Mabel was moved to a cleaner, quieter room. The nurses who had been shouting were now speaking in soft, kind voices. Jaden had done in 5 minutes what Rachel and her mother could not do in weeks. He had given them hope. He sat quietly near the window, watching Rachel sit beside her mother, holding her hand and talking softly. He felt a strange warmth in his chest, a feeling he had long forgotten. Later, as he was preparing to leave, Rachel looked at him with her big, serious eyes. So, can I still work for you? She asked. He smiled faintly. Why do you want to work so badly? Because I don't want to owe anyone, she said, with a dignity that surprised him. And since you are helping us, I want to help you too. Even if it is to sweep your floor. Jaden's chest felt tight. This small, poor girl had more honor than most of the rich businessmen he dealt with every day. He nodded. Okay. You have a job. You can start tomorrow. Rachel's face lit up with the brightest smile he had ever seen. But as Jaden walked out of the hospital and got back into his car, his phone rang. It was Lizzie, and her voice was tense, almost scared. Sir, she said, there is a problem. Someone has taken a photo of you and the girl. They are asking questions. And they are asking about the girl's father. Jaden's blood ran cold. He ended the call and stared out the window at the passing streets. Who was asking questions? And why? A deep, unsettling feeling settled in his stomach. This was not over. Someone was watching, and they wanted to cause trouble. Big trouble. The crumpled DNA result felt like it was burning a hole in my hand. My daughter. The words echoed in my mind, a truth so powerful it made the room spin. Rachel was still looking at me, her little face etched with concern, her hand patting my knee. Sir Jaden. Your tears are falling, she said, her voice small and worried. I had to tell her. I had to open my mouth and let the life-changing truth come out. But just as I took a shaky breath to speak, my office door flew open with a sharp bang. Lizzie stood there, her face pale as a ghost. She was holding a tablet, and her hands were trembling so much I thought she would drop it. Sir. Sir, you need to see this, now, she gasped, her eyes wide with panic. The moment was broken. The words I was about to say to Rachel got stuck in my throat. I quickly wiped my tears with the back of my hand, trying to compose myself. I couldn't let Rachel see me fall apart, not when she had already been through so much. What is it, Lizzie? I asked, my voice rough with emotion. I carefully folded the DNA result and slipped it into the inner pocket of my agbada, right over my heart. Lizzie hurried forward and thrust the tablet into my hands. On the screen was a news website, and the headline was like a punch to my stomach. Exposed, Billionaire's heart of stone. Jaden Williams takes in fake street child for publicity. Below the headline were pictures. Pictures of Rachel feeding her mother soup in the hospital room. The article was full of poisonous lies. Sources reveal the child is not even the biological daughter of the sick woman, Mabel. She was found abandoned as a baby. Is this all a clever sympathy scam? Is the mother using this poor, fatherless child to manipulate the soft-hearted billionaire? How long before Mr. Williams sees through their game? My blood boiled. A fury like I had never felt before rose up inside me. They were attacking a child. A brave, kind, 6-year-old child who had done nothing wrong. And they were attacking Mabel, the woman who had saved her. Who did this? I growled, my voice low and dangerous. The gentle father from moments ago was gone, replaced by the powerful businessman who knew how to destroy his enemies. I don't know, sir, Lizzie stammered. It's on several blogs and gossip sites. The story is spreading fast. Rachel was watching us, her eyes darting between our faces. She could sense the trouble. Is it about my mommy? She asked, her lower lip starting to tremble. Is she okay? I knelt down in front of her, forcing my anger down so I could smile for her. Your mommy is fine, my brave girl. I promise. But I need to handle some bad people who are telling lies. Can you be a super good helper and color another beautiful picture for me? I need to talk to Lizzie for 1 minute. Rachel nodded, her eyes still worried, but she trusted me. She went back to her crayons and paper on the rug. I pulled Lizzie aside, my back to Rachel. My mind was racing. Call my lawyer, check. Now. Tell him to issue cease and desist letters to every website running this story. I want it taken down. Then, send 2 of our most discreet security men to the hospital. I want them outside Mabel's room right now. No reporters, no strangers get near her. Do you understand? Yes, sir, immediately, Lizzie said, and she hurried out of the office. I stood there, my heart pounding. The secret of Rachel's paternity was now a weapon I had to protect her with. But who would do this? Who would be so cruel? My mind immediately went to Cynthia, my top executive. I remember the jealous fire in her eyes yesterday when she saw Rachel sitting on my lap. She had been furious. It had to be her. But I had no proof. Not yet. I took a deep breath and turned back to Rachel. She was concentrating hard, her little tongue sticking out as she drew a picture of 3 people holding hands. She had written Sir Jaden, Mommy, and me underneath them. The sight melted my anger away and replaced it with a fierce, protective love. That is a wonderful picture, Rachel, I said, my voice soft. She looked up. It's us. We are a team. Yes, I said, my heart aching. We are a team. And teams protect each other. For the rest of the day, I tried to act normal. I had meetings, but I kept Rachel close by in my office. I watched her play, my mind only half on the business deals. The DNA result in my pocket felt like a heavy weight. I needed to tell her. I needed to tell Mabel. But now, with this scandal breaking, the timing was terrible. What if people thought I was only claiming her as my daughter to save my reputation? I couldn't let them cheapen our story with their nasty rumors. Later that afternoon, I drove Rachel back to the new, safe private hospital where Mabel was now staying. Mabel was looking stronger already, able to sit up in bed. Her face lit up when we walked in. Rachel. Mr. Williams. Thank you so much, she said, her voice still weak but full of gratitude. Mommy, Sir Jaden let me use golden crayons today. Rachel announced, running to hug her. I smiled at Mabel. Please, call me Jaden. As Rachel chattered away to her mother, I received a text message from Lizzie. Sir, the security team is in place. The lawyer is working on the takedowns. But the story, it's still spreading. I clenched my jaw. I needed to see Cynthia. The next morning, I went to the office early, before Rachel arrived. The atmosphere was tense. People stopped talking when I walked past. I could feel their stares. I went straight to Cynthia's office. She was at her desk, looking as cool and perfect as always. She smiled when I entered. Good morning, Jaden. You're in early. I didn't return the smile. I closed the door behind me. There's a nasty story going around about the little girl, Rachel. Cynthia's face was a mask of innocence. Oh? What story? I don't pay attention to gossip. This isn't just gossip, I said, my voice cold. It's a targeted attack. It mentions that she's not Mabel's biological daughter. That's not public knowledge. She shrugged, looking down at her papers. Well, the truth always comes out, doesn't it? I leaned my hands on her desk, looking directly into her eyes. Cynthia, If I find out that you had anything to do with this, and I mean anything, you will not just be fired. You will be finished in this industry. Do you understand me? Her eyes flashed with anger for a second before she controlled it. Are you threatening me, Jaden? Over a street child? Her name, I said slowly, is Rachel. I turned and walked out, my anger simmering. I didn't have proof, but I knew it was her. I spent the day trying to walk, but I was distracted. In the evening, I decided I needed the full truth from Mabel. I needed to hear the story of Rachel's past from her own lips. I drove to the small, dusty apartment in Ajegunle where they used to live. Mabel had been discharged from the hospital and was resting at home, with a private nurse I had hired. I knocked on the faded brown door. Mabel opened it, her eyes widening in surprise. Mr. Will, Jaden. Please, come in. The room was small but very clean. Rachel was dancing around with a plastic spoon, singing a little song. Her joy filled the tiny space. Sir Jaden, she shouted, running to hug my legs. Good evening, my brave girl, I said, patting her head. I sat on a simple wooden chair. I looked at Mabel, my expression serious. Mabel, I need to ask you something very important, and I need you to tell me the complete truth. She nodded nervously, sitting on the edge of her bed. Yes, anything. I took a deep breath. Is Rachel your biological daughter? The question hung in the air. The room went completely silent. Mabel froze. Her eyes filled with instant tears, and she looked down at her hands. Rachel had stopped dancing and was watching us, confused. Finally, Mabel spoke, her voice breaking. No, sir. She is not my blood. My heart squeezed. Tell me everything. Mabel closed her eyes, remembering the painful memory. It was 6 years ago. I was coming home from my cleaning job very early in the morning. It was behind the Big Heaven nightclub, near the warehouses. I heard a sound, a tiny cry. I found a baby, wrapped in a dirty cloth, just a few hours old. She began to cry softly. There was a note pinned to the blanket. A note. I asked, my throat tight. What did it say? Mabel looked up, her tears flowing freely. It said, I am sick. I cannot raise her. I got pregnant from a one-night mistake at the Royal Preston Club. I don't know the man. I never saw him again. Please, whoever finds her, raise her well. I have no means. Forgive me. A heartbroken mother. The name of the club hit me like a physical blow. Royal Preston Club. My head spun. Memories I had locked away came flooding back. A night out with friends after a big business deal. Drinking too much. Feeling dizzy, my vision blurring, it wasn't normal. I had always thought my drink was spiked. Waking up in a strange hotel room with a woman I barely remembered. I was ashamed. I left quickly before she woke up. I never knew her name. I never knew. I never knew I had a child. My breathing became fast and shallow. My hands turned cold. It was all true. Every piece of the story fit. Jaden. Are you okay? Mabel asked, her voice full of concern. I couldn't speak. I stood up, the room tilting around me. I need to go. I need to be sure. I was talking about the DNA test I already had in my pocket, but she didn't know that. I stumbled out of the small apartment, my mind reeling. The cool evening air did nothing to calm me. I got into my car, but I didn't start the engine. I just sat there in the dark, clutching the steering wheel. The pieces were all there. The club. The date. The abandoned baby. It was me. I was the heartbroken mother's one-night mistake. I was the man who didn't know. I was the father who had left his own daughter to be found in the dust. An overwhelming wave of guilt and shame washed over me. But with it came a fierce, blazing certainty. Rachel was mine. And I would move heaven and earth to claim her. But as I sat there in the dark, my phone lit up with a new message. It was from an unknown number. I opened it. It was a single, grainy photograph, taken from far away. It was a picture of me, kneeling in front of Rachel in my office, holding the DNA result in my hand. The message below it was simple, and it turned my blood to ice. I know your little secret, Jaden. How long do you think you can hide it? The message on my phone screen seemed to pulse with a malevolent light. I know your little secret, Jaden. How long do you think you can hide it? The grainy photo of me and the DNA test was a direct threat. Someone wasn't just spreading rumors anymore, they were watching my every move, and they knew the one truth that could change everything. My first instinct was rage, a pure, hot fury that made me want to smash my phone against the dashboard. How dare they? How dare they spy on me in my own office and threaten my daughter? But a colder, more calculating feeling quickly followed the anger. This was no longer just a gossip campaign. This was blackmail. And the only person I knew with both the motive and the means was Cynthia. I started the car, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I drove aimlessly through the dark streets of Lagos, my mind racing. I had to protect Rachel. The DNA result was my most precious secret, but in the wrong hands, it could be twisted into something ugly. People would say I only acknowledged her because I was caught. They would tarnish the beautiful, painful truth of our story. I couldn't go home. I drove back to the office, the one place I always felt in control. But tonight, the empty, glittering tower felt like a cage. I sat in the dark of my office, the city lights twinkling below, and I made a plan. The next morning, I put on a mask of calm. When Lizzie brought Rachel in, her little face beaming in a new green dress, I smiled and greeted her as usual. I could not let her see my fear. "Good morning, my brave helper," I said, my voice steady. "Good morning, Sir Jaden," she chopped, holding up a new drawing. "I drew you a lion because you are strong." The innocence of her gift felt like a knife in my heart. I was not feeling strong. I was feeling terrified. But I took the drawing and pinned it proudly to my wall. "It's perfect, Rachel. Thank you." I spent the morning with her, going through the motions of work, which mostly involved her coloring and me watching her with a sense of awe and dread. All the while, I was waiting. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. It came just after lunch. My office door opened without a knock. Cynthia walked in, and she wasn't alone. Behind her was Mr. Abubakar, the stern, elderly chairman of my company's board of directors. My blood ran cold. This was it. She was making her move. "Jaden," Cynthia said, her voice sleek with fake concern. "I'm so sorry to interrupt, but this is a matter of urgent company business." She glanced dismissively at Rachel, who shrank back in her chair. "Mr. Abubakar," I said, standing up and nodding at the old man. "To what do I owe this visit?" Mr. Abubakar's face was grave. "Jaden, there are serious concerns being raised. This situation," he gestured vaguely at Rachel. "It is causing a reputational crisis for the company. The negative press is affecting our stock price. And now, Cynthia has brought me some disturbing information." Cynthia stepped forward, placing a tablet on my desk. On it was the same grainy photo from the anonymous message. My heart hammered against my ribs. She had made her play. "What is the meaning of this, Jaden?" Mr. Abubakar asked, pointing at the photo. "What is this paper you are holding? Why does this child matter so much?" I looked from his angry face to Cynthia's smug one. I could lie. I could dismiss it. But as I looked at Rachel, her big eyes wide with fear and confusion, I knew I couldn't. I would not deny my daughter to save face. Not for them. Not for anyone. I took a deep, steadying breath. The secret I had wanted to protect was now my only shield. "This child," I said, my voice clear and strong, "matters because she is my daughter." The silence in the room was absolute. Mr. Abubakar's jaw dropped. Cynthia's smug expression shattered into sheer, unadulterated shock. She had expected a secret affair, a shady deal, something she could use to break me. She never expected this. What? Cynthia stammered, her composure completely gone. I walked over to Rachel and knelt beside her chair. I took her small hand in mine. I looked at Mr. Abubakar, my gaze steady. This is Rachel Williams. My biological daughter. I have a DNA test that proves it. That is the paper in the photo. I turned my eyes to Cynthia, and they were like ice. Someone has been spying on me, trying to use my own child as a weapon against me. The power in the room had completely shifted. Mr. Abubakar was no longer looking at me with accusation, but with a dawning understanding. A man protecting his child was a narrative he could respect. A man involved in a scandal was not. This is a family matter, Jaden, Mr. Abubakar said, his voice much softer. Not a company one. It became a company matter when someone decided to attack my family to get to me, I replied, my stare still locked on Cynthia. That is the real scandal here. Cynthia looked pale. She had overplayed her hand, and she knew it. Without another word, she turned and almost fled from the office. Mr. Abubakar gave me a slow, respectful nod before following her out. The door closed, and the room was quiet again. I was still holding Rachel's hand. She was looking at me, her head tilted. Sir Jaden, she whispered. Did you say? I am your daughter. The moment of truth had arrived, not in the quiet, gentle way I had imagined, but in the middle of a battlefield. I looked into her eyes, my own filling with tears again, but this time they were tears of relief and love. Yes, Rachel. I am your father. Your real father. I didn't know about you, but now I do. And I am so sorry I wasn't there for you before. Rachel was silent for a long time, just looking at me, her little brain trying to understand this huge thing. Then, a slow, wondrous smile spread across her face. So, that's why my heart felt safe with you, she said simply. That one sentence broke me. I pulled her into my arms and held her tight, crying freely. She wrapped her small arms around my neck and hugged me back. It's okay, Daddy, she whispered. I am here now. Hearing her call me Daddy for the first time was the most beautiful sound in the world. The rest of the day passed in a joyful, surreal daze. I was a father. I had a daughter. The threat from Cynthia was still there, but for a few hours, I didn't care. I called Lizzie in and told her the news. She burst into happy tears and hugged us both. I knew it, she sobbed. I knew there was a reason you two were so connected. In the afternoon, I knew it was time to tell Mabel. I drove Rachel to her home, my heart full of a new kind of nervousness. How would she react? She had raised Rachel as her own for 6 years. I was about to turn her world upside down. We found Mabel sitting outside her door, enjoying the evening breeze. She smiled when she saw us. Rachel. Jaden. What a nice surprise. Mommy. Rachel cried, running to her. Guess what? Sir Jaden is my daddy. My real daddy. The smile vanished from Mabel's face. She looked from Rachel's excited face to my anxious one. Her eyes filled with a complex storm of emotions, shock, fear, and a deep, heartbreaking sadness. What is she saying? Mabel asked, her voice trembling. I knelt in front of her, just as I had with Rachel. It's true, Mabel. I ran a DNA test. Rachel is my daughter. I am the man from the Royal Preston Club all those years ago. Mabel stared at me, her hand flying to her mouth. Tears began to stream down her face. They were not happy tears. All this time, she whispered, her voice breaking. All this time, I wondered who he was. I prayed he was a good man. And it was you? She looked at Rachel, and her expression was one of pure grief. You're going to take her away from me, aren't you? My heart ached for her. No, Mabel. Never. You are her mother. You will always be her mother. You saved her. You loved her when no one else did. I could never, ever take that away. I want us to be a family. All three of us. The fear in her eyes slowly began to soften, replaced by a fragile hope. Rachel hugged Mabel tightly. I have two hearts now, Mommy, Rachel said. One for you and one for Daddy. Mabel hugged her back, crying softly into her hair. She looked at me over Rachel's shoulder, and she gave me a small, tentative smile. It was a beginning. But as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from my head of security. Sir, we have a situation. A reporter from the Lagos Spy blog is at the hospital asking questions about Mabel's past. He's digging. And we've traced the anonymous number that sent you that photo. The phone was a banner, but it was purchased with a credit card registered to a shell company. The director of that company is a man named Raymond. Cynthia's older brother. My brief moment of peace shattered. Cynthia wasn't working alone. She had enlisted her family, and she was not going to give up. She was digging into Mabel's past, looking for more ammunition. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. The battle was far from over. In fact, the real war for my family was just beginning. The news about Raymond felt like a physical blow. Cynthia wasn't just being spiteful, she was launching a coordinated attack with her family. They were digging, and if they found Mabel's past, they could twist it into something ugly. I couldn't let that happen. The happiness I had felt just hours ago, holding my daughter and sharing the truth with Mabel, was now clouded by a thick, dark fear. I immediately called my head of security back. Pull the reporter aside. Offer him an exclusive, sit-down interview with me next week about my new family charity. That should make him back off for now. And put 2 more men on Mabel's house. I want 24-hour watch. No one gets close to her without my permission. I ended the call and looked at Mabel and Rachel. They were sitting together on the small step, Mabel's arm wrapped tightly around our daughter. Their faces were etched with worry. They had heard enough of my conversation to know that the danger was real. Jaden. Mabel's voice was small and scared. What is happening? I knelt before them, trying to look more confident than I felt. Someone is trying to hurt us because they are jealous and angry. But I promise you, I will not let them. I am going to protect you both. No matter what. Rachel looked at me with her big, trusting eyes. You are strong like a lion, Daddy. You will scare the bad people away. Her faith was a shield around my heart. I had to be the lion she believed me to be. The next few days were a tense balancing act. I moved Mabel and Rachel into my guest house, which was safer and more secure than her apartment in Ajegunle. It was a big change for them. The house was larger than their entire old neighborhood. Rachel ran through the spacious rooms with wonder, while Mabel walked quietly, looking overwhelmed by the luxury. I tried to create a sense of normalcy. I took Rachel to school each morning in my big black car, and she would wave goodbye with a bright smile. I worked from home as much as possible, often with Rachel coloring at a small desk I had set up for her in my study. Mabel and I started having meals together, talking about Rachel's future, about the foundation, about anything but the threat looming over us. A quiet, gentle bond was growing between us, built on our shared love for our daughter. But the peace was fragile. My security team reported several attempts by different reporters to sneak onto the property. A blogger published a story claiming I had kidnapped a child from a poor woman, forcing me to have my lawyer issue a swift and threatening legal response that made the story disappear. The biggest battle, however, was at the office. Cynthia was still there, a cold, silent presence. She did her work perfectly, but her eyes when she looked at me were full of a bitter hatred. I knew she was just waiting for another opportunity. I had my own investigators digging into her and Raymond's finances, looking for any leverage I could use to make them stop, but so far, they were careful. 1 week after we had moved in together, I decided we needed a night out. A chance to feel like a normal family, even for just a few hours. I booked a private table at Lunar Sky, the most beautiful rooftop restaurant in Lagos. I wanted to show Mabel and Rachel a beautiful night, to make them feel cherished and safe. The evening was perfect. The city light sparkled below us like a carpet of diamonds. Rachel wore a beautiful yellow gown, and Mabel looked stunning in a simple peach dress that made her skin glow. For the first time in weeks, I saw the worry leave Mabel's eyes. She laughed freely as Rachel told silly jokes, and our hands brushed over the tablecloth. In that moment, surrounded by the soft music and the warm night air, it felt like we were a real family. It felt like we had won. As we were finishing our dessert, a waiter brought a small, expensive cake to the table. "Compliments of the management, Mr. Williams," he said with a smile. It was a kind gesture. Rachel clapped her hands in delight. But as the waiter walked away, I noticed a man at the bar, partially hidden in the shadows. He was not looking at the view, he was looking directly at us. It was Raymond, Cynthia's brother. He lifted his glass in a slow, mocking toast towards me. My blood ran cold. The evening was ruined. He wasn't here to cause a scene, he was here to watch. To remind me that he was always there, lurking in the shadows. My appetite vanished. I quickly paid the bill and ushered Mabel and Rachel out, my body tense, my eyes constantly scanning the room for any other threat. The car ride home was quiet. Rachel, tired and full of cake, fell asleep with her head on Mabel's lap. Mabel looked out the window, the happy light in her eyes gone, replaced by the familiar fear. "He was watching us, wasn't he?" she whispered, not looking at me. "Yes," I said, my voice tight. "But he can't touch us. He's just trying to scare us." "It's working," she replied softly. When we got home, I carried a sleeping Rachel to her new bedroom, tucking her into the soft blankets. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. I kissed her forehead, my heart swelling with a love so fierce it hurt. I would not let them steal her peace. I walked Mabel to her room. She stopped at the door, her arms wrapped around herself. "Thank you for tonight, Jaden," she said. For a little while, it felt real. "It is real, Mabel," I said, my voice earnest. "This family is real. What we are building is real. Don't let them make you doubt that." She nodded, but the doubt was still in her eyes. She went into her room and closed the door. I went to my study, the weight of the day heavy on my shoulders. The brief escape was over. The war was back at my doorstep. I poured a glass of water, my mind racing, trying to anticipate Cynthia and Raymond's next move. What were they planning? What else could they possibly dig up? The answer came not with a phone call or a threat, but with a quiet, official-looking envelope that was slipped under my front gate sometime in the night. My security guard found it at dawn and brought it to me as I was having my morning coffee. It was not addressed to me. It was addressed to Mabel IB. My hands turned icy as I stared at it. It was from the Lagos State Ministry of Youth and Social Development. The subject line made my heart stop dead in my chest. Notice of investigation, in the matter of the custody and welfare of the minor, Rachel. I tore it open. The words blurred in front of my eyes. It was an official notice. A complaint had been filed. It alleged that Mabel IB was an unfit mother who had fraudulently obtained and raised a child without legal due process. It stated that the state was now investigating her fitness to be Rachel's guardian, and that a formal hearing was scheduled. They weren't just trying to scare us in the newspapers anymore. They were using the law. They were trying to legally take Rachel away from Mabel. A white-hot rage consumed me. This was Cynthia's masterstroke. She couldn't get to me, so she was going after the woman who was the heart of my daughter's world. If they took Rachel from Mabel, they would break her. They would break all of us. I crumpled the letter in my fist. This was no longer a corporate battle or a war of gossip. This was a fight for our family's very existence. And I would use every single resource, every bit of power and wealth I had, to destroy anyone who tried to tear us apart. The stakes had just become higher than I ever imagined. The crumpled official letter felt like a declaration of war in my hand. This was no longer about rumors or jealousy, this was a direct attack on my family's foundation. They were trying to use the law to rip my daughter away from the only mother she had ever known. The rage that filled me was colder and sharper than any I had ever felt. This was the final line, and Cynthia and her brother had crossed it. I didn't wake Mabel. I let her and Rachel sleep, the last moment of peace they might have for a while. I went straight to my study and called two people. First, my lawyer, Chike, the most brilliant legal mind in Nigeria. I read him the letter, my voice shaking with controlled fury. They have filed a case with the ministry, Chike, I said. They are calling Mabel an unfit mother. Chike was silent for a moment. This is serious, Jaden. But it is also stupid. They have no grounds. We will fight this, and we will destroy them. I will file our response today. We will demand an expedited hearing. My second call was to my head of security. I want a full dossier on Raymond and Cynthia. Every business deal, every loan, every mistake they've ever made. I want to know what they eat for breakfast. Find me something, anything, I can use to make them withdraw this case. By the time Mabel woke up, I had a plan forming. I met her in the kitchen, her eyes still soft with sleep. I placed the letter on the counter in front of her. Her hands trembled as she read it. The color drained from her face. Unfit mother, she whispered, the words a painful gasp. They want to take my baby. She looked at me, her eyes wide with pure terror. Jaden, they can't. She is my life. I took her hands in mine. They were ice cold. Look at me, Mabel. They will not take her. I promise you this on my life. They have chosen the wrong battle. We will go to this hearing, and we will end this. Forever. The next week was a whirlwind of preparation. Chike was a force of nature, gathering affidavits from doctors about Mabel's recovery, from neighbors in Ajegunle who spoke of her love for Rachel, and from Rachel's new teachers who praised her happiness and adjustment. We were building a wall of truth. Meanwhile, my security team delivered. They found it. Raymond had a secret. A large, unpaid loan from a shady foreign bank, used to prop up his failing shipping business. He was on the verge of bankruptcy. This was his motive. Cynthia had promised him money from her shares in my company if she could discredit me and take control. The day of the hearing arrived. It was held in a former government building in Ikeja. The room was cold and smelled of old paper. On one side sat Cynthia and Raymond, looking confident and smug with their lawyer. On our side sat me, Mabel, and Chike. I held Mabel's hand tightly, it was still trembling. The presiding official, a stern-looking woman named Mrs. Adebayo, began the proceedings. Cynthia's lawyer stood up first. Madam, we are here today because of the welfare of a child, Rachel, he began, his voice oily. My clients, upstanding citizens of Lagos, are deeply concerned. The child's current guardian, Mabel IB, has no legal right to her. She obtained the child under suspicious circumstances, raising her in poverty and instability. She is now living in the home of Mr. Jaden Williams under what can only be described as unclear and potentially immoral conditions. I felt Mabel flinch. I squeezed her hand tighter. We propose, the lawyer continued, that the child be placed in the temporary custody of the state, pending a full review, or better yet, with upstanding citizens like my clients, who can provide a morally sound environment. It was a disgusting performance. When it was our turn, Chike stood up. He was calm and powerful. Madam, Chike said, his voice resonating in the quiet room. This is not about the welfare of a child. This is about greed and revenge. He then proceeded to systematically destroy their case. He presented the affidavits, painting a picture of Mabel as a heroic, selfless woman. He presented medical records showing Rachel was healthy and loved. Then, he played his masterstroke. He called me to the stand. Mr. Williams, Chike asked. What is your relationship to the child, Rachel? I looked directly at Mrs. Adebayo. Rachel is my biological daughter. I have a DNA test that proves it. I placed the certified result on the table. A ripple went through the room. Cynthia's smug mask finally cracked completely. And what is your relationship with Mrs. Mabel IB? Jack asked. I looked at Mabel, my gaze soft. Mabel is the woman who saved my daughter's life when I did not know she existed. She is the woman who raised her with immense love and sacrifice when I was not there. She is the reason my daughter is the kind, brave girl she is today. I love and respect her deeply. We are a family? Jack then turned to Mrs. Adebayo. Madam, the father of the child is present, capable, and willing to provide for her. He fully supports and honors the woman who acted as her mother for 6 years. There is no case here. This is a malicious and frivolous complaint designed to harass and inflict pain. He then handed a separate file to Mrs. Adebayo. And for context, this is a financial record showing the complainant, Mr. Raymond, is deeply in debt and has a clear financial motive to destabilize Mr. Williams. Mrs. Adebayo looked through the file, her face growing sterner by the second. She looked at Cynthia and Raymond with utter disdain. This hearing is over, she announced, her voice sharp. The complaint is dismissed with prejudice. It is clear to this ministry that the child, Rachel, is in a loving, stable, and secure home with both her biological father and the woman she knows as her mother. Any further frivolous actions will be met with severe legal consequences. She glared at Cynthia and Raymond. You have wasted this ministry's time and attempted to weaponize the law against an innocent child and family. You should be ashamed. It was over. We had won. Outside the courtroom, Cynthia and Raymond hurried away, not looking back. Their world was about to crumble. I would make sure of it. That evening, we celebrated. We didn't go to a fancy restaurant. We stayed home. I had my chef prepare a feast of pounded yam and egusi soup, Mabel's favorite. The three of us sat at the dining table, laughing and talking. The fear was gone. The threat was over. As Rachel told us a funny story about her friend at school, I looked at Mabel. The weight was finally lifted from her shoulders. She was glowing, her laughter free and easy. Our eyes met across the table, and in that look, we understood each other completely. We had been through a fire together, and we had emerged stronger. When Rachel had fallen asleep, exhausted from happiness, Mabel and I sat on the veranda, watching the stars. Jaden, she said softly. You kept your promise. You protected us. I will always protect you, I said, meaning every word. I reached into my pocket. My heart was pounding again, but this time with hope, not fear. Mabel, these past few months have shown me what truly matters. It's not the money, or the power. It's this. It's family. It's you. I opened the small box in my hand. The diamond ring sparkled under the starlight. Mabel gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. You have the biggest heart of anyone I have ever known, I continued, my voice thick with emotion. You gave me back my daughter. You have given me a reason to smile again. Mabel, will you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Will you let us be a family, officially and forever? Tears streamed down her face, but they were tears of pure joy. She nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Yes, Jaden, she finally whispered. Yes, I will marry you. I slipped the ring onto her finger, and she threw her arms around my neck. We held each other in the quiet night, two souls who had found each other through the courage of a little girl. The next morning, I gathered everyone in the large living room. Rachel was there, rubbing her eyes. Lizzie was there, and a few of my most loyal staff. I stood before them, holding Mabel's hand. I have an announcement, I said, my voice clear and happy. This wonderful woman has agreed to be my wife. The room erupted in cheers and applause. Lizzie burst into happy tears, as usual. But the best reaction was from Rachel. She jumped up and down, clapping and shouting, "Yay! Now you will be my daddy for real and for always. Mommy, you have a ring." She ran to us and hugged us both tightly, creating a perfect circle of love. I looked over her head at Mabel, and I saw my future. A future filled with laughter, with love, and with the family I had always dreamed of. The dusty little girl who walked into my office, barefoot and poor, not knowing I was her father, had not just saved her mother. She had saved me. She had led me home. And now, our story was just beginning.